But that's what we do in our systems. We medicate the fish. Okay, so you don't want to waste these resources. So let's get busy and let's talk about what loss of brain memory or loss of brain volume causes. Causes memory loss, cognitive function, personality and mood disorders. Do you think we have that issue in our culture? Yeah, one out of every 10 people that you see is on some sort of antidepressant. Okay, 1 out of every 10. Okay, back in the early 70s, mid 70s, I mean, maybe 1 out of 1,000, maybe. Now it's 1 out of every 10. Accelerated Alzheimer's disease, increased healthcare costs, increased burden on your family, and reduced quality and quantity of life. So Alzheimer's, according to some studies now, has become the 3rd leading cause of death, moving ahead of stroke. It's unbelievable, really. Yeah. So the choice is yours. Let's look at the difference between heart disease, cancer, stroke, and dementia. So if you look at heart disease, cancer, and stroke, which have been the top 3 for a long time, can have sudden and painful onset of symptoms. With dementia and Alzheimer's, very gradually. Cause moderate to severe dysfunctions in disruptions in function and rehab. Cause major functional disruptions. But others you're gonna need others to help you, because a lot of times you won't even know if it's late dementia. Here, the mind is usually intact, so you're fully aware of you and your family's friends suffering. But here, the mind just erodes away, so you don't have to worry over what's happening. Major modern research is showing that our lifestyles are causing our brains to shrink. Genes are about 25% of this, but how we treat our genes about 75%. So our lifestyles literally alter our genes and can cause this. So genetically, we're hardwired for some things. Like I'm hardwired to be a short guy, okay? I'll never be above 5'6", unfortunately, okay? But my genetic makeup in terms of the weaknesses I have can be altered by how I live my life, what I eat, how much I exercise, all of that. Whether I smoke or not, how much I drink, all of that. So how we treat our genes is 75% of our health. So let's talk about the top things that we can do to shrink our brain. So if you want to shrink your brain, don't drink water, okay? Reduce your water intake. Dehydration leads to brain shrinkage, and just 2%, just a 2% dehydration can really cause problems with thinking, brain fog, memory. So dehydration it's a very simple thing, just to drink enough water, but it does cause brain dysfunction. So what are the things that some of the people are doing in our culture to dehydrate themselves?
Drinking a lot of coffee.
Yeah, drinking too much coffee.
Energy drinks,
alcohol, pop, right. All of those things dehydrate you because they take the place of water. Okay, how about reducing your sleep? So sleep is absolutely necessary for normal brain function. Wakefulness, when you don't get enough sleep, it stresses the mitochondria in your body, which produce energy. So catching up on sleep debt on the weekends, that isn't going to work. You've got to get enough sleep. How much sleep is normal for the average adult?
7 to 8.
Yeah, 7 to 9 hours, about 7 to 9 hours, okay. When I was in college, not so much. And back in the 90s and the early 2000s when the whole Silicon Valley thing was exploding, I read stories about where those people thought that sleep was unnecessary. It was this kind of it was kind of something that you only did if you were weak. Well, they found out that you cannot do that. Your brains cannot function without sleep. Anybody in here in college ever pull an all-nighter? I mean, I did. Yeah. How'd you feel the next day? Yeah, I mean, you go in and take a test like that. It doesn't work very well. You know, I tried it. It didn't work. Okay. So poor sleeping habits cause both brain damage and brain shrinkage, and really accelerate the onset of Alzheimer's disease. It's also been linked to obesity and hormone alteration. That's from the journal Neurology way back in 2014. So if you want to shrink your brain, reduce or eliminate exercise, live a sedentary lifestyle. Okay, how many of you know people like that? Yeah, they're out there, okay? So exercise, it says, while lack of sleep can lead to brain shrinkage, those who exercise the most tend to have the least amount of brain shrinkage. Not only that, but exercise actually causes your brain to grow, okay? So that's enough right there for me to want to exercise, okay?
Is that because of blood flow, Paul?
Blood flow is a big part of it, yeah. But it also enhances your neurotransmitter function, you know, all your brain chemicals, endorphins and things like that. And that came right out of WebMD 2012, okay? So if you want to shrink your brain, become and remain depressed. Okay, recurring depressive episodes reduce the size of your hippocampus. It's an area of your brain involved in forming emotions. A smaller hippocampus equates to loss of emotional and behavioral function. Would you say that there is a relationship between depression and lack of exercise? Yeah, I would say absolutely there is, okay? Depression and eating, what we eat, yeah, there is, okay? So all of these things are very interconnected. How about lack of sleep and depression? A huge connection there, absolutely. So this is, again, this is out of a great journal, Molecular Psychiatry. I really like that journal a lot, 2015. Reduce B vitamins in your diet. So by stress, excessive drinking, avoiding green vegetables and grass-fed meats. So B vitamins are really, especially B12, really important for higher brain function. According to latest research, people with low levels of markers for vitamin B12 were more likely to score lower in cognitive tests, as well as have a smaller total brain volume, which suggests a lack of vitamin B12 may lead to brain shrinkage. Where do we get B12? Anybody?
Green veggies?
Yeah, and we get it in meat also as well. Yeah, we get B12 in meat. You know, so I'll tell you an interesting story about veganism, okay? So I'll probably offend some vegans, but I don't care. So one of my mentors is really good friends with a gynecologist who is in a gynecology practice with about 5 other OBGYNs. And one of the things that he told her was that anytime there's a patient, a vegan patient that needs somebody to deliver them, they almost fight over not having to deliver a baby from that patient because their tissue is so weak that it tears during delivery. They have more pain, more tearing, more bleeding because they don't have the protein level to support healthy tissue. So they'll even like offer their colleagues $100 to deliver the baby because they're such difficult deliveries. Veganism is not good for people, okay? It's not, they don't get enough protein. So I would say, I'm not saying you should just go on the carnivore diet, but there's nothing wrong with eating high quality meat. We need it, okay?
Does plant protein help at all?
Well, veganism's claim that they eat all this plant protein, but apparently it's not working for these pregnant women, you know, so, I mean, you get protein from plants. I just don't think you get all that much. Studies have shown that high doses of vitamins B6, inositol, B12 in combination, were effective for improving schizophrenic symptoms. Low doses were ineffective. Niacin may actually be a key treatment for psychological disorders, including schizophrenia. This has been known, by the way, for a while. There were people in the 50s that were experimenting with this. But when the whole pharmaceutical industry started its rise, a lot of that stuff fell by the wayside. But again, this is out of the journal Psychological Medicine, 2017. So you'd think that this would be a standard protocol of treatment in psychiatric institutions, but it's not, okay? It's not at all.
Are all those B's in meat or beef? The B6?
No, you need to get, like, it's not just beef, but you need to get, like, plants and things like that. I tell you where you get a lot of B vitamins, though, is liver. Liver is really good for people. In fact, that the supplement I have, Cataplex B Core, one of the primary ingredients to that is liver. So it's very good for people. If you want to shrink your brain, increase your alcohol intake, okay? MRI studies have shown that a linear negative effect of alcohol consumption on brain volume, which means the more alcohol you drink, the smaller your brain gets. They concluded that with brain shrinkage reported, there was even a result of low to moderate alcohol consumption caused shrinkage in the brain. So you don't want to drink too much, okay? Load up on prescription painkillers, especially narcotics. Prescription painkillers, especially morphine, has been known to shrink your brain volume by 3% after only 1 month. Okay, so think of these people that are taking morphine a lot for pain. And by the way, I don't begrudge people that are in a tremendous amount of pain, like people who've been shot or in a car accident or something, from taking these things, but we need to know what they actually do to us. And again, that's in the journal Pain Medicine, 2015. If you want to shrink your brain, increase your sugar intake. Eat lots of these, okay? Long-term sugar intake can contribute to the shrinking of your hippocampus, and this is a hallmark finding in Alzheimer's disease. Again, this is from WebMD, 2014. Another thing that high sugar intake does is it messes with your gut bacteria and actually causes problems with retinal damage in your eyes. So if you want to preserve your eyesight, I would make sure that your sugar intake is at a very manageable low level. I'm not saying you can never have some ice cream or a piece of cake, but sugar really is really bad for your brain. It's bad for your eyes. It's bad for lots of things. So if you want to shrink your brain, increase your intake of trans fats and eat a lot of processed foods. So where do you get trans fats? Margarine, okay. French fries, probably the worst, one of the worst foods to eat. One of the tastiest, unfortunately, but one of the worst, okay. Chips, flaky pastries, all of those contain trans fats. Trans fats is really, really bad for your brain. Now, why would that be? First of all, what are trans fats?
Overly processed.
Yeah, they take regular fat and they hydrogenate it under a lot of heat, and that changes the molecular structure of that fat. So it's like what happens. You have 2 carbons here, and the rest of the molecule is here. It should look like this, and it does this. Okay. Well, when that gets into cells, that changes the ability of the cell to bring things in it, food into the cell, excrete things out of the cell. But why would this affect our brain?
The brain is like 70-80% fat.
Great answer. That's exactly right. Yeah, the brain is primarily fat. It's a big glob of fat. So if you're eating lousy fat, where do you think that ends up? part ends up in your brain and your cells and everywhere else. So it's a lousy, it's really bad to eat margarine and fast food and all of this stuff. I mean, just, eating it on rare occasions is not going to kill you, but you should stay away from this stuff. What are good fats, by the way?
Avocado,
Olive oil.
olive oil,
Yeah, avocado,
butter.
olive oil, yeah,
Coconut.
grass-fed
Coconut.
butter, coconut oil is
Monounsaturated.
good, yeah.
Some palm oil.
Palm, yeah.
They are making chips now with avocado.
Yeah, I've
that
seen
they're
that.
getting away from, they're starting to do the chips with the good healthy stuff.
Some people are learning some things. They're not buying that stuff anymore, which was good, yeah. So, if you want to shrink your brain, decrease your intake of healthy, unprocessed foods. So, study participants who ate diets high in vitamins B, C, D, and E, and omega-3 fatty acids were found to have larger, healthier brains than their junk food eating counterparts. So these nutrients are found in fresh fruit, vegetables, fish, raw nuts, and seeds. If you want to shrink your brain, run as far as you can from the Mediterranean diet. We have a lot of people in this country that are running from it too, unfortunately. So studies have reported, and again, this is in the journal Neurology, 2015, that higher adherence to the Mediterranean diet is associated with larger brain volumes and cortical thickness, and that's measured by MRI. So, most of you know what the Mediterranean diet is. It's fish, chicken, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, all the things we know that are good for us. If you want to shrink your brain, eat 0 servings of brain food per day. So this is a list that I found. This probably isn't the only list out there, but curry's really good, very highly anti-inflammatory. Celery calms inflammation. Broccoli and cauliflower. What does broccoli and cauliflower do? What is a good part of that? What does it do that's really good for us?
Are they high in calcium? At least broccoli is. I don't know about that.
They have some calcium in, no doubt about that.
Breakfast protein.
Fiber.
Fiber. What else do they do?
They're cruciferous.
Okay, that's a fact. And what does that mean?
I forgot that part.
Okay,
I'm trying to
forgot the
think.
second part of that. Okay.
Yes, I know.
You get partial credit. Okay.
We've talked about that before, and I'm like, I'm trying to
Okay.
think of it.
So would everybody agree that broccoli and cauliflower are good for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but nobody knows why. Okay. They're very powerful detoxifiers. They really help the liver through phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. Very high in sulfur. Sulfur is really, really important for liver detoxification. Like Brussels sprouts, very high in sulfur. Kale, very high in sulfur. And so that helps the liver to detoxify and get nasty chemicals out of your body.
Would cabbage be in that group too?
Yes, absolutely cabbage would be in that group. Absolutely.
What about broccolini?
What is broccolini?
It's broccoli, but it's
Just
got less of a stem. It's miniature, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm probably fine.
Found it at the farmer's market. I
Yeah,
don't know.
okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than a Hershey's bar, I'm sure. Garbanzo beans.
Vitamin B12 should you take?
How much should you take? Depends on what you need. Depends on what your needs are. So if your blood work shows that you need it, then you need to take it. But everybody needs it. Everybody needs B12. So I take my product Cataplex B Core because it's high in B12 and it's high in folate and some other things. So that's why I just take that to make sure I get enough. Garbanzo beans, magnesium, red meat contains B12, blueberries, very powerful antioxidants. And then we already talked about the healthy fats. So here's another thing. If you're a male and you want to shrink your brain, eat a lot of non-fermented soy, like tofu. So when I was in chiropractic college, I used to eat a lot of this. And I didn't know it was bad for you. You know, it's back in the 70s. You know, I shopped at a health food store back then and ate a lot of whole foods, but I thought tofu was probably okay. And now later on, I found out that I was hurting myself by eating it. So,
What's bad about it?
well, it does all this. There's a lot of phytoestrogens in it. So a lot of estrogens that men don't need, okay?
Oh, I see.
Has phytates, that blocks your body's uptake of minerals, inhibits enzymes, causes red blood cells to clump together, inhibits oxygen uptake, has a high amount of omega-6 fatty acids. And most soybeans grown on conventional farms use genetically modified, you know, fertilizers and things. So it's not good for you, okay? I haven't eaten it in decades, but I was eating it in chiropractic college. If you want to shrink your brain, strive to be overweight or obese. An MRI imaging study compared brain of white matter volume in obese and lean middle-aged individuals. Those who were obese had significantly smaller white matter volumes than their counterparts. That's in the Neurobiology of Aging, that journal 2016. If you want to shrink your brain, promote type 2 diabetes through your lifestyle. Okay, so type 2 diabetes, what would be a type 2 diabetes lifestyle? Anybody?
High in sugar and carbs.
High in sugar and refined carbs. Low in exercise. Yeah, you read my mind there. Low in unprocessed, you know, foods. Okay.
Drive-through.
Pardon me?
Drive-through eating.
Lots of drive-through eating, lots of fast food eating. I mean, when I drive around town and I see all these cars lined up at McDonald's, I mean, it just boggles my mind. And you ever been at a grocery store and you see somebody in their carts just full of junk food, like they got Cokes hanging off the side and Mountain Dew, you know, and like going, how do they even have the energy to push their cart? You know, that's what I'm thinking, at least. You know, I don't see how they could live like that. Here's another one. So I love this study right here. Remain in chronic pain and avoid chiropractic care at all costs if you want to shrink your brain. Okay, so this is a great study, Journal of Neuroscience, way back in 2004. They showed that chronic lower back pain causes a brain to shrink at about 1.3 cubic centimeters per year, which is the equivalent of 10 to 20 years of normal aging. So chronic pain shrinks your brain, okay?
Why is that, Paul? Especially the low back pain that would affect your brains.
Okay, so I was just going to ask everybody that. Why is that? So you asked.
I don't
okay?
know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to answer.
So I'm gonna let everybody see if anybody knows why that is. Okay, I should really give out a prize if you get this one right.
Low back pain. Say your question again.
What?
Say the question again.
Why? Okay, in this study, they looked at lower back pain, but it could be chronic pain of any kind. Okay, so why would chronic pain shrink your brain?
Pinched nerves.
Depression.
Okay.
It takes up all the energy.
Okay. Well, you guare thinking. Okay.
You have more medications to block the pain and it
Okay.
numbs the brain.
Well, that's true, but if you look at the biological mechanism,
High cortisol?
high cortisol, Nancy, you got it. That's
I always
the
think of that. I
answer.
never think of it when it's the answer.
Pain elevates cortisol. Cortisol acts like a blowtorch to your brain. Okay, where's cortisol made in the body? Who knows?
Gut. Adrenals.
Adrenals.
Oh, that's adrenal.
Adrenals is an adrenal hormone. Okay, so anything that elevates cortisol for a long period of time is going to have an adverse effect on your brain. That's a great answer, Nancy. You asked the question and you answered the
You
question.
knew that I had the answer.
Yeah. You had it in there somewhere,
Yeah, I
didn't you?
guess that was in the file. Yeah.
Okay. Chiropractic care that affects brain function in other positive ways. This is a great study out of Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine 2017. So they looked at, this is a Japan University, a medical school in Japan. They looked at what happens, they looked at PET scans, what happens when somebody gets adjusted. Here's what they found out. There's increased activity in the cingulate cortex of the brain, which has to do with learning, emotions, and memory. Increased activity in the cerebellar vermis, which is right here, which has to do with spinal proprioception, your ability to, locate your space and time, posture, movement, and emotions. Reduced activity in the somatosensory cortex, which perceives pain, which is where you'd want it reduced because you want to lower pain levels. And increased significance in salivary amylase, significantly reduced salivary amylase, which is an enzyme increased with stress. So they show that chiropractic care, chiropractic adjustment, does everything that's good to affect brain function. And this is all done with PET scans. Now, I'm sure none of you have ever seen this on a television commercial, have you? Yeah, neither have I. Should be in the news, but it's not. Okay, bonus. If you want to shrink your brain, subject your brain to repeated, unprotected trauma. So here's an interesting study that was done. What was the journal? Journal Neuropathology, March 2017. 14 retired soccer players played an average of 26 years. Six were concussed. These 14 retired soccer players had dementia, and they were studied for 30 years until their death. And what they found out was that they all had CTE, dementia, motor impairments, mood disorder. It was worse when there was a head-to-head collision rather than just head to ball. So anytime you concuss your brain, it's very, very bad for brain function. Now, the thing is that if you have a concussion, there are things that I can do and things that we can do here that can really help you with that. And I go into that in another talk that I do. So there's ways that you can really help that. Now, there's a real interesting study that came out about 2 weeks ago in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, where they looked at high school kids, they looked at college kids, and they looked at grade school kids who had died but had played sports. And you know what they found out? Their brains were already starting to degenerate. Already starting to. In fact, I need to do a 10 minutes of truth on that article, but that just came out 2 weeks ago. Very interesting.
What type of sports though, Paul? Like if you're
Football,
something where there's
collision. Yeah.
but not like baseball or golf or something.
No, unless you get hit in the head, with baseball or something like that.
Right.
But it was football,
more
football,
contact
soccer,
sports.
things where there's a lot of colliding. Okay.
Who was that quarterback, 49ers? Can't think of his name. Keep thinking Dan Marino, but I know it's not the other one. He was the 49ers quarterback.
Steve Young?
No, the other one. He was the backup.
Montana?
Yeah.
Who?
Joe
Oh,
Montana.
Joe Montana, yeah.
I think he has dementia, doesn't he now?
I don't know.
I thought he heard he did because he had so many concussions that he was kind of like really ditzy and just.
I didn't know that. I know that he
I thought I
lives
heard that.
in a high rise in San Francisco that's leaning.
Oh.
That's not in very good shape.
No.
I know that part. But yes,
So a helmet really doesn't protect your head that much?
it protects it some, but you still get concussed. Yeah, you still get you still collide. And not only that, but there's a really good study that shows when you get concussed, it hurts your neck. And if you don't get your neck fixed, then that slows down the process of healing the concussion. So there's some real good protocols for concussion, and I talk about those in a couple of my other talks, one of them especially. But this is not good. One other thing about concussion that I want to tell you, and then I'm going to let you guys go. is that when you get concussed, one of the things that happens almost instantaneously is you develop leaky gut, okay? Because of this gut-brain connection through the vagus nerve. So it happens like that fast, okay? So what happens when you get leaky gut, for those of you who've been to my other talks? What's the problem with that?
You have toxins out through your, that are supposed to stay in your stomach and your gut, that goes out, it becomes systemic in your body.
And what happens?
What's right, get sick.
You're definitely on the right track there. Yeah, that's true. You get toxins and other things that isn't supposed to be in your blood. Your body reacts to it and it creates autoimmune disease. Leaky gut is number one issue in autoimmune disease. Huge issue in autoimmune disease. Okay, so we're going to skip this here.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
You're talking about what not to do. So if you're a person that has done some of those things, can you reverse that?
Done some of what things?
The things that you need, that you do to have a smaller brain, like that it decreases your brain.
Sure, you can reverse some of that. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, so if you don't exercise, you know.
Yeah. So
If you
I'm
don't
wondering
eat,
if that will actually increase it again,
yeah,
allow it to expand. And
yeah, your body has a tremendous capacity to heal. The problem is once your brain gets past a certain point with dementia, really hard to get it back. It's really hard. Now, Dale Bredesen out at UCLA out in California, he's an Alzheimer expert. He wrote a book called The End of Alzheimer's. He's having success bringing some of these people back. Boy, it takes discipline in eating. They take a load of supplements. I mean, they live a really rigid lifestyle, which should be worth it, but it's not that easy. I'm just going to say that. It's not easy at all. So what can be done if you're developing a brain issue, or if you want to find out if you have something that's developing? Well, there's some tests that can be done that are really valuable. Number one is called the Neurozoomer test. It's 48 markers for brain autoimmunity and degeneration. Just a blood test, and you can find out what's going on with your brain. Are you developing an autoimmune disease in your brain? Now, that's good information, but you need to know why, okay? So it doesn't, and this Neurozoomer does put this into categories to show you what might be happening. So the Wheat Zoomer test will show whether you have gut permeability. So if you do these two tests and you're developing autoimmunity in your brain, and you do this one and you have gut permeability and gluten sensitivity, and you're eating gluten, then you know you got to get rid of gluten and you need to fix the gut permeability. That's a very doable thing. It takes time, but it's doable. Total toxicity tests. These are toxicities which might be affecting the brain. So things like mold, like environmental toxicity, things like that, or even like tick-borne infections can affect the brain. And so there's all these tests that you can do. These are the three big ones that I would do if you wanted to find out, is your brain healthy? What's going on with your brain? If it's not, what can you do to help it? These are the three that I would start out with. I call this the mini Bredesen protocol. However, if you come in and you're eating a load of sugar and you have a hemoglobin A1C of like 8, should be below 5.5, then your brain is under stress, I guarantee you, and you got to get your blood sugar down. And I just saw a really interesting study recently where it showed that imbalance in gut bacteria can cause alterations in blood sugar that aren't good. So sometimes that not only is it involved getting your sugar down, but it involves balancing the bacteria flora in your gut that actually can cause issues with high sugar. So, and then again, that would be the gut permeability test would be a really valuable test for that. So, good. So I want to ask you guys a question. I want you to just close your eyes, just think about somebody. I don't care who it is. Think about somebody that you know that needs this information.
Besides ourselves.
Yeah, well, okay, if it's yourself, yeah, everybody does. So just think about a friend that you're going to share this with. Think about a friend whose brain might be deteriorating a little bit that you need to share this with. And I want you to share it with them, okay? And
So how do you share it, Paul? Through a link, your YouTube, or what? How do you
Well,
say share this?
I could send you the slides.
Isn't this gonna be on Facebook?
It'll be on Facebook a lot. Yeah, it'll be on Facebook.
And then does
Yeah,
it go to
thank
your
you.
YouTube site also?
Yeah. Well, if we're not expelled
Are
from
you still-
YouTube,
are
which
you
I've
still
been,
in
I've
jail?
been on YouTube jail, yeah. So for saying the COVID vaccines didn't work. So yes,
Okay.
thank you for that, Mary. It's on YouTube. Okay, so you can, it's on you, yes,
It's on Facebook.
Facebook, excuse me.
I've heard recently that fluoride has an effect on your brain like this. Are you familiar with that?
I haven't, I wouldn't surprise me. I didn't know that, but that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, fluoride kills your thyroid. We know that. And that certainly affects brain function. So, but it's toxic. You know, fluoride's toxic to the body. So very well could be, yeah. I haven't heard that. I'd like to see, I wouldn't mind reading that study, but
Okay.
yeah, I did not know that. But that's good, yes.
Isn't that the third eye? What is that called?
Pineal gland.
Yes, it messes with that.
Wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
I have seen
Yeah.
that somewhere recently. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
Okay, that's all I have tonight. Great.